but I want to also point your attention to the fact that the last three of the major rivers, the James River, York River, Rappahannock River, have this very interesting left-hand turn as it gets down towards the Chesapeake Bay. They all take somewhat of a left-hand turn, and that actually confounded people for some period of time until in the 1980s they discovered some very interesting anomalies with ground penetrating radar and from offshore or in the bay, and then subsequently some test drilling, and they discovered over time the existence of a giant crater that is about 50 miles across, that the center of which is current day Cape Charles. Now, when this hit about 35 million years ago, on a Tuesday morning, I think it was, right around 10:30, quarter of 11 in the morning, it hit out in well offshore, because at that particular geologic time, the coastline was up around Richmond. So where we are now was underwater, and has been underwater many times over millions of years. So I'll pass this around that way, and I'll have one to pass around this way if you would take this and pass that. So I just mentioned that the coastline was at Richmond. Well, at times the coastline has been many miles off towards the Atlantic. And the reason is ice sheets forming and glaciers forming take water out of the ocean basins. When they melt, they deposit that water back in the ocean basins. So you have basically, on a global scale, the tide coming in, the tide going out. And this is over courses of millions and millions and millions of years. It's always been going on.
When did the crater hit?
35 million years ago, Tuesday morning between 10:30 and 11 o'clock.
Was there a boom? Was there anybody here to hear it?
No, 35 million years ago. Well, boy, there's some really good possible answers to that.
That's all right. We don't
What
want
were
to be
the
here until
animals
4.
alive 35 million years ago?
35 million years ago, it would have been many of the animals that are extinct now but are still recognizable. There would have been, now this is post-dinosaur.
Right.
So dinosaurs extinct 65 million years ago. Mammals had had tens of millions of years to come into their own. Horse-like animals, camel-like animals, the ungulates, the deer-type animals that really extended, you know, a lot of the bizarre animals that extended right up until the end of the last ice age. And their ancestors would have been alive then. Again, this is tens of millions of years ago versus the end of the last ice age, which I'm going to say something about, at just 10,000 years ago. So fast forward again, the idea is, why is this here? Why is this such a great place as a choice for Warwick Town? Well, we have this expanse, we have this high bluff, so, and we have, keeping in mind sea level rise and fall constantly. So the rivers, and this is where I'll pass. Oh, all right. Physiographic regions of Virginia. SOL testable material, right, Betty?
Right.
Yes.
And on the back, the same map that shows a cutaway view and us in the coastal plain. And I want to emphasize that when we're here on the coastal plain, we are standing on the mountains, sort of, because mountains, great mountain ranges to the west of us, have risen and fallen, and by fallen I mean eroded away over great periods of time. Well, where's that erosion material going to go? It's going to go downhill, and we're downhill. We're standing on the remains of mountains that have come and gone for hundreds of millions of years further to the west of us.
That were
material,
as big as the Rockies.
Pardon?
That were as big as the Rockies.
That were as tall as the Rockies. The current Blue Ridge Mountains are just the basement remains of a mountain range, and that's the most recent uplift. Mountains that were estimated to be around 10,000 or so feet high. I encourage you to look into the whys of that, because again, I could have you here easily until 4. But in any case, So all that material is eroding away, and that's what we're standing on. We're standing on the remains of mountains, which is unconsolidated material. It's clay, it's sand, it's sandy clay, and so it's very easy for water to cut through it. Well, when you look at the rivers coming down from the west, you're seeing these rivers cut through, once they make it to the coastal plain, basically soft material. And the James River, all the rivers, the major rivers, Susquehanna, James, York, Rappahannock, Potomac, these are ancient drainage patterns from the west. Forget about from the east, because the eastern shore is new land. It's brand new land. These rivers are ancient. And as you probably, most or all of you know from experience around this region, if you were to take away the water magically and start walking across the James River, it's pretty darn shallow for a ways, and you'd get somewhere across the river and you'd fall straight down, almost straight down into a deep channel. Those are literally called the paleo channel.